We're back, and we're joined, I'm pleased to say, still by Congresswoman Michele Bachmann. She has become the dean of the government school in a terrific university, Regent University. And in that role, she's been doing some real serious educational work, not just of the students there, but also of larger audiences that have been able to take advantage of some wonderful symposia that she has held on, among other things, election integrity, and most recently on the globalist agenda for the world. A reset of epic proportions is seemingly what they have in mind. Very distinguished group of people were pulled together to talk about it, and we wanted to visit with her about her principal takeaways from this. Michele, tell us a little bit about not just the symposium, obviously, but also about the insights that it provided about what global capitalists, so-called, have in mind for this country and the rest of the world, for that matter.
Reset, people have been hearing that term. Globalism, the rise of authoritarianism, the Davos group that meets, the World Economic Forum that meets in Davos, Switzerland. They've been meeting twice a year for many, many years. And now recently, people not just in the United States, this isn't just Democrat, Republican, people all across the world, particularly in Western-oriented democracies, also are experiencing what we're experiencing in the United States. And so people are saying to me all over the world, I speak all over the world, and they say to me, Frank, what is happening in the world? Something is really strange. Are we ever going to go back to normalcy? And the answer is that organizations like the World Economic Forum, who just sponsored their own summit directly after our summit was held, the next day, it was called World Government Summit. Now, before, if you talked about the idea of one world government, you would be considered a kook. But today, you've got CNN, you've got eminences from all over the world attending the World Government Summit. And why is that? It appears what we're looking at is a one world economy with a one world system of government led by a few oligarchs. In other words, if you think of what Russia is today, it's essentially an oligarchy. That's what these multi-billionaires are planning for the world, a world that's run by oligarchs. And that strips us of our individual liberties and freedoms. It takes down the nation state of the United States, and we become weak, and then we become part of this global consortium. One very concerning aspect that came up is the fact that they're announcing very boldly that we're looking at the end of money systems as we have them, and we're looking at the rise of digital currency. And with the rise of digital currency, it also means the end of accounting. So imagine that, the end of accounting, because we're looking at a blockchain system where literally every time every person would have their own ID number, their own social identification number in the world. And then based upon that number, we would use a digital form of currency, and every transaction would be recorded by a central bank, but also the money is programmable, meaning the central bank decides how we can spend the money and where we can spend the money. That's just one example of where we're going. They're not looking at this, Frank. They're looking at doing this fairly soon. And one thing that's very odd, President Biden, also at this symposium, they talked about the fact that we're looking at a tremendous cyber attack. Well, how do they know? How do they know there's going to be a cyber attack? And if there is, China has been the one who's been behind most of the cyber attacks in the world. If that happens, if for instance, all financial banks and systems are knocked out in the United States, imagine you can't go to have a financial transaction this afternoon. You can't order anything online. That's how high stakes bingo this is. So that's what we on. We brought in world-renowned scholars to unpack the World Economic Forum and where the Great Reset is headed and how it'll impact America and the world.
Well, again, I commend you for your leadership on this score. And as it happens, just before you joined us, we had one of the speakers, Dr. Michael Rechtenwald, who, as you know, is very clear about what we're up against. Indeed. Well, and a former Marxist professor, which I think makes very much more valuable his insights, as a matter of fact. But let me just connect a couple of dots here, Michele Bachmann. We have China, as you mentioned, in the mix. These global capitalists, you'd think, wouldn't want any part of China, and yet they seem to be very much disposed to make common cause. And I'm not so sure whether it'll be the oligarchs at the end of the day that will be running things or the Chinese Communist Party. But what does seem clear is they're both intent on taking down the United States of America as the impediment to the realization of their global designs. And what you just said is so vitally important, that to the extent that they're able to get their hands on our currency and manipulate it or control it or deny us the use of it, if you will, it's a huge problem, is it not?
Changes our world forever. Our world would never be the same again. And that's what their goal is, that the world would never be the same again. I want everyone to know, Frank, that this conference that we held is available for all of your viewers to watch free. We made it free. We want this information to go widely spread. People can access this at my university, regent.edu/globalism. Again, it's regent, regent.edu/globalism. So you can watch all of the speakers, and you can forward the material to other people. You'll be very happy that you watched this forum. It was very well done with great information. It wasn't boring. So please tune in, because this is the main event that's happening in the world today.
And it so desperately needs to be understood as such. We talked earlier in the program with one of your former colleagues, Congressman Chris Stewart, about how vital it is that there be a course correction in this country. And this webinar and your insights and those of your colleagues make that all the more imperative. Congressman Michele Bachmann, thank you for your leadership and your continuing service to our country. It's really deeply appreciated, as is the courage and brilliance that you bring to the task. Thanks to the rest of you for joining us for this edition of Securing America. I hope you feel better equipped to join us in doing just that. Check this out for more information at securingamerica.tv, and then go forth and multiply.